I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation. Andrew Quo, alternatively, takes 0 days off. Andrew, what is new in your world? Your little corner of a subterranean prison. What's new? Was that fair?
My positive mental attitude is always becoming newer and better. It's a freaking Wednesday, and yes, my overall disposition is brand new every day, Ben. Newer and better, I should say.
When's the next time you're gonna be lured out of your cushy lair?
There's a dollar store I quite like that's closed on the weekend. So it was supposed to be Saturday for groceries once a week, but I might have to go out there on Friday because they have stuff I really like that I would have to walk too far to get. They're an old Chinese grocery store, dollar store, but they have like the good potato chips. They have Rayo's tomato sauce for $6.99. It's a deal, man. Have you had Ben & Jerry's slices? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, what are they? They're ice cream sandwiches?
Kind of. You know how on food shows for a while they were slicing pints of ice cream to like through the cardboard, through the container to create like round disc shapes for whatever reason. So I think they picked up on that.
Like surgical cross sections, as if you're trying to discern the age of a tree.
Yeah, or like cutting a steak or a slice of bologna, but thick. So they dip it in chocolate and package them individually. Mwah, delish.
That's like gabagool.
So maybe Friday is the answer to that question. Well, how about you?
What I find irritating is when you're missing one thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, I could totally make that if only I had cherry tomatoes. And you're like, well, that requires getting cherry tomatoes. And I don't feel like going to the store.
Yeah. You're a tomato guy. So I've never brought this up with you, but you're a person who always has a beautiful array of tomatoes on your counter.
Are you a nightshade shamer?
No. I'm about to ask a question.
Oh, whew.
Is this a year-round thing? Or
It's
is it seasonal?
It's seasonal in that we know when the really good tomatoes are here.
Mm-hmm. It's hard not to buy them when they're in season. You just got to buy them.
Late summer tomatoes are the best, obviously.
Incredible. Yeah.
But off-season tomatoes, I'm not really into. I'll be frank, and I'm going to say this in front of all of our hundreds of thousands of listeners. A tomato that has been refrigerated at any point just hits different and worse, is what I'm saying.
Tomato?
You can tell when a tomato has been refrigerated. It has been compromised by that frosty, like refrigerated truck, or it's been however you would ship tomatoes up in December or in March or anywhere when they're so out of season here. You can tell the flesh is different. They stay sort of pale and unhealthy. You don't get that real peak tomato that I'm always searching for.
I mean, AO tomato technology has gotten a little bit better through the years, and
True.
I remember, yeah, you're right. In the winter, you could tell when they had been frozen, like their stems are they have a different rigidity to them. Mm-hmm. There's a mealiness that you can absolutely taste in a sandwich. But I feel like recently in the supermarket, you stay away from like the beef tomatoes and you get the vine tomatoes, and they're passable. Totally worth it.
I'm with you. I agree. And those are probably from a greenhouse that's maybe more local. Mm-hmm. Or something like that. But I agree. It's the beefsteak ones or the little Romano ones.
Yeah, totally.
They are so mealy after they've been frozen that even in a sandwich compromises it.
Yeah, it's no fun. But No, but I just want to paint this picture because you always have a nice spread, and avocados make an appearance sometimes.
I have some avocados. The only thing that I really make sure to keep a lot of is canned tomatoes because they're the most useful. Like with
100.
pasta sauce, you can add them to a soup. They're great. Canned tomatoes on deck, and you just have to make sure you buy them in a little bit of bulk because they go on sale and they're dirt cheap every now and then.
You opened up this can of worms.
Here we go.
What kind and in what kind of processing stage?
The diced ones are easy, and I don't mind like Muir Farms or whatever. But you can go and get the good San Marzano stuff if you're really going in.
And that'll
those are
run you
great.
like $3.99 a
But
can.
they cost a little more, yeah. I think you're kind of all right with like Red Pack or Progresso. Generally speaking, if you're going to use them in a soup or something like that.
I mean, there's
I like the
nerds who
larger
break this down.
can. I like the
Yeah.
larger than the
Oh, yeah.
smaller ones. I feel like the smaller ones are not as cost effective.
Yeah. I mean,
Do
this
not
is,
like packed with basil and garlic either. No, I can do that myself.
that's annoying, especially if you want to lean the tomatoes into a different cuisine, like an Indian style. Add some paprika and the basil it's too funky. But I ask because a lot of people have written about this and have a lot of opinions about it, and I've tried to find my sweet spot, and I landed at a weird spot. There's a brand called Sclafani that makes crushed. That is the only one I really enjoy, and I know the nerds like the San Marzano whole tomatoes that you crush with your hands, but I like the Sclafani ones the best.
I think I've had those as well. I feel as if they're a fairly common supermarket canned tomato.
And I'm shallow because the can is beautiful. So I immediately went for this can in my journey to find the right one because it was the prettiest one. It's like a cool looking can.
Yeah, I'm not a purist when it comes to San Marzano. I would say, yeah, I like them. Maybe they're the best, but I don't care enough, to your point earlier, to spend 3 times as much on San Marzano.
Yeah. So I think what you're looking
If
for
I'm throwing
is
it in a lentil soup, I don't need to be
exactly.
that discerning when it comes to my canned tomatoes. This is what this pod has turned into. A
Yeah.
canned tomato reviews pod.
This is relevant, man. The
It is.
canned tomato rewatchables. I heard you're supposed to avoid citric acid in the ingredients, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to go on record. I haven't found that to be an issue. The issue is always if they're too sweet.
Interesting.
That's all I got. This is the end of the pod.
Well, come back next week. We're going to talk about canned corn.
Delicious. Always good. Even straight out. Oh, save it for the pod.
Save it, Sifs. Save it. So anyway, yes, I do have tomatoes on my shelf in large format on the vine, as well as cherry tomatoes and some in the cupboard in cans. So I have tomatoes on deck is what I'm boasting about right now.
Yeah. I love it. Every time I go over, it's a cornucopia of delicious, fresh, seasonal foods.
No, we're saving corn for next
Right.
show.
My bad. Cookies.
Cookies. So yeah, in other news, Bernie Sanders has dropped out of the presidential race, bowing to the unshakable charisma and performance and youth of Joe Biden.
But these young kids just taking the shine from the old heads.
It's really a generational movement that
Yeah, this is
Biden rode.
This is a generational shift, finally. Out of here, boomers.
Well, the DNC got there, man. Joe Biden, a beacon of progressive politics and a dynamic personality who can almost string a sentence together if he's alive. They can get him out of his cushy quarantine lair.
They don't call him Joe Hologram for nothing.
ISO Joe. Shout out to your man who came up with that phrase. Because ISO Joe is super funny. Roof.
His name is Roof. And shout out to Roof. But I watched Biden's speech that he made this afternoon or late morning. It was sad because, I'm kind of annoyingly not 100% for either of these guys, but I'm more in favor of Bernie because I think his policies have a truth to them that really kind of connect, and I understand his popularity because it has won me over too. And to see him concede is fine. We knew this for a while. This was in the works for a good month, since Iowa Super Tuesday. The writing was on the wall, but to see the candidate like him, who's had a life like him, concede defeat, and maybe his like one of his final acts as a public servant, and to see him talk about his policy and to hear him discuss the concerns he has and to give up in the same breath was melancholy.
I think the last couple weeks really distilled the difference between these guys and the difference between Bernie's movement and the difference between the DNC. And this is part of it, but also the fact that, Bernie did not bring the hammer against Joe Biden in the debate in the way that I would have liked to see, because he is at his heart a kind person who cares about people. And we saw his approach after that debate, even as he really needed some wins. And I'm not saying he could have gotten them in the primary elections that came up, but he did not tell people to vote. He dedicated money that was coming to his campaign towards helping victims of coronavirus. He shifted his gears. Meanwhile, the DNC and Joe Biden fought to send people out to die in the polls. And to me, it was an almost unfathomable approach to democracy, to tell people who are your voters, specifically boomers, to still go out there in the polls and like wash your hands and we should do this election now. And that really was a clear-cut distinction between the DNC and Biden, and to me, Bernie Sanders in these last couple of weeks, that he had more or less reconciled that he was probably not going to get this nomination, that the math didn't work, but he still did not fight tooth and nail because it would have been bad, because it would have hurt people and people would have died. And the DNC, despite having all the advantages, said, no, go ahead. Go out there and get coronavirus to get Joe Biden a couple more votes, even though he has all the advantages already. So to me, that was very crystallizing and telling.
Yeah, I mean, I think he lost. He ran a really strong campaign that was kind of campaign 2, more campaigns from his 4 years ago. And I think sometimes you go up against a different opponent and that opponent beats you. And that doesn't really reflect on as much as we think, as opposed to just you're playing LeBron James and you're Carmelo Anthony and people love you, or a player you like. I don't mean to like attach a player that's controversial to Bernie, but since this is a basketball podcast, but I think the Bernie's year kind of was on a downward trajectory, and in one way it's a shame, but in another way is I cannot become that invested in the actual politics of politics. I love policy, but politics is ruthless. That's the cliche, and it plays out in ways that don't really align with the way I want to see them, and I just have to stay cool.
Well, Bernie dared to suggest a better America.
Awesome.
And that's his legacy, that we don't have to be a horrible, cruel nation, that we can do better, and we can have healthcare, and we can have education, and we can have a more fair distribution of wealth, and that we don't have to be run by corporations. And the DNC countered with no, that they'd rather trot out a dusty sarcophagus full of special interests instead of Bernie. And they were able to use all of their powers and money and influence and control of the media in order to defeat a 80-year-old grumbling guy who just wanted to make America a better place. And they succeeded in that. Bernie was not dynamic enough to beat that entire machine by himself. If he was less hunched, if he was gifted with youth and uncharted charisma.
But
If he was
remember, like Trump is our president, so it's doable. We've seen it in recent history.
Sure. I'm not saying it wasn't doable. I'm saying Bernie himself was unable to beat that entire machine. Yeah. And like that is a reflection of him as a politician, but it was also a decision by the DNC to train all of their guns, all of their surrogates, all of the media, every single person in the party to attack a guy who wanted health care and a guy who wanted student debt. And I think the ultimate irony here is that coronavirus exposed all these things in American society, all these unfair elements, the viciousness and brutality of America laid bare at a time when Bernie Sanders is dropping out of the race. And to me, that is like the real sweet spot, when it's so clear that we need universal health care. And it's so obvious that we could have absolved or, what's the word I'm looking for here? We could have forgiven student debt with a snap of the fucking fingers. But we were told we couldn't have that. You can't have nice things. We can't afford them. Healthcare, oh, that's impossible. Who's going to pay for it? Oh yeah, here's like $2 trillion for, the economy. Like, that was all nonsense. And of course, that to me is like the real irony, that everything he said was true. All of his policies were possible, and he's dropping out so we can have two guys who represent the good cop and the bad cop of American corporate politics battle it out, and now we can be shamed into being told that we need to vote for, Joe fucking Biden, because otherwise they'll get rid of abortions and they'll put everyone from Honduras in a concentration camp. Yeah. Like, I just really looking forward to this whole next couple months of being shamed and derided for being on the left of Joe Biden, and then after he gets annihilated in the election, being blamed for it. Like, can't wait. Going to be a great couple months.
I mean, it's odd. Anger is not the emotion I generally feel with politics. It's just like deep sadness. And there's that, what do you call it? Is it an idiom? Is it a phrase? I don't know. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And I never.
If you're not deeply sad, you're not paying attention.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of the things you said, and to me, just to keep it even in its more simple terms, it's like Bernie had all the things that Americans would want to hear. Universal health care, getting out of debt, protecting generations, and giving them a chance to succeed, not hoarding money, not creating a wealth gap further, which is wild. And those are all things that I think every person on earth would be like, sounds good to me, but yet it still didn't work because of the package. Like he didn't get there.
But I mean, this is what we've talked about a million times. That
yeah, we don't.
I hear you that it's the package of Bernie, and as I just had said, if he was 6'5" and looked like George Clooney, he might have won with the exact same message.
Yeah, we'll never know.
But I'm saying his politics are popular.
Ish. People didn't vote that way, but they should be popular. But he was losing support from his last. But this is not about this discussion today, I think.
But I mean, Biden stands for nothing.
I didn't even mention Biden.
I know. I just mean if we're comparing like Bernie to who he lost to, and saying like, his politics didn't resonate. Like, people liked his politics. Exit polls show that. All polls have showed that on both sides of the aisle, people like the idea of having health care, and people like the idea of having education. Those are deeply popular policies. I mean, I don't even know what Joe Biden's policy is on anything.
But as we know throughout history of every election cycle, that people vote to not vote for someone else. It's like, well, I just don't like Hillary Clinton, and I'm not even a Republican or a Democrat. I just don't like Hillary Clinton. And we heard that a lot in the last election. And who knows how people vote? This is the question we're all trying to answer every 4 years, right? Like, we can discuss this ad nauseum, but we just can't really quite predict how people will actually vote.
I mean, yes, there's no way I can be convinced that if the DNC had supported Bernie Sanders as the front runner, as the person who had enthusiasm, who had the money, who had the ground game, who had all of those things coming out off of victories in Iowa and in New Hampshire and in Nevada, if the DNC had gotten behind him, that he would not be a much stronger candidate than Joe Biden.
But that's like saying, if I was given a higher paying job, then I would have more chances to succeed, right? There were other candidates who wanted Biden's nomination. There were many of them, and
but they gave it to someone who finished like third and fourth in prior.
So the most qualified person doesn't necessarily get the job that you want, I mean, sometimes
sure, but that's not what we're not even talking about. That right. We're saying the DNC made a decision to go with a guy who did not have enthusiasm, a guy who did not have money, a guy who did not have offices, ground game, who had nothing, who can barely put a sentence together, who is hiding in his little cave talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And they said, this is our dude. And they used and leveraged all of their substantial power throughout the electoral process and throughout the media. And it worked. And I'm saying you can't convince me that if they had given Bernie that same leg up, he would not be a far stronger candidate to beat Trump than Joe Biden is. But we'll see.
Ironically, your favorite politician agrees with you. Donald J. Trump tweeted, "This ended just like the Democrats and the DNC wanted, same as the crooked Hillary fiasco. The Bernie people should come to the Republican Party. Trade." So my question is, who's he trading back? And does he know how this trade works? I have many questions about that.
Is there a racist to be named later that we get?
Yeah, who are we getting back? Because we don't really want to trade Bernie, but what are you offering?
I mean, look, Trump is on cloud nine. The one person they did not want to face was Bernie, and they got the candidate they wanted more than anything. They got Joe Biden.
That's not true. He's terrified of Biden because of the whole Hunter Biden thing. He's been scared of Biden for a year. We had an impeachment because of it.
No, they want Biden more than anyone. That was their dream candidate, and that's why they were scraping up stuff on him, because he has so much dirt. So they wanted Biden more than anything.
So they wanted to create dirt on him because they wanted him to succeed.
Well, they thought he might be the candidate, but they were dreaming of Biden, and they got their guy, just like they were dreaming of Hillary. They got the perfect candidate to run against, someone who is compromised in all the same ways that Trump is, someone who's old, someone that is going to be terrible in a debate, someone that is not popular and has no enthusiasm among young people. Like, this was the dream.
Overestimating Trump. I really think you're overestimating him.
I'm saying Biden was their dream candidate. I was told this fucking 6 months ago.
I was also told this, but with the way this played out, I mean, no one knows shit, man. Like, you're overestimating Trump, because I don't even think he thinks, like, he's like, oh my God, he was in the White House before me. I remember when he was Obama's guy, he's big trouble. And everyone's like, he's not actually
I'm not
big
saying
trouble.
this viewpoint comes from Trump. I'm saying the people around Trump, whether they are right or wrong, they wanted Biden. And maybe they'll be wrong. But that's totally possible. I am saying, though,
there's a possibility that Biden beats him.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance. I think there's also a chance that Biden gets absolutely annihilated.
And Trump gets absolutely annihilated. I don't know what's going to happen. And we'll get a better picture. I think we'll get better models moving forward now that we have another step in this clarity of this process. But all three of those scenarios, all four of those scenarios, are plausible to me right now.
This does feel like the death of the DNC in my mind. As something
disagree,
that
is, go off.
Well, I just feel like I don't view Biden as a legitimate candidate at all. I don't view him as a legitimate winner of the primary. And that's just how I feel. Yeah. I view him as completely illegitimate. That, like, he didn't earn anything. He was handed this mantle of candidacy despite being utterly inept, having no enthusiasm, being, I mean, almost like cartoonishly doddering for the last 2 months. And I'm like, no, this is not the candidate who I believe rose to the occasion to represent us. And at least with Trump, he vanquished people. He showed himself to be formidable.
Oh, Trump stan over here.
Love that guy. He's great.
He
But
agrees with
Biden
you
never,
about the DNC.
Biden never came off as a formidable candidate. He never came off as commanding. He never came off as being the guy to beat at any point. He was the front runner based on his coattails of Obama, got annihilated and just embarrassed in the early ones, and then used his coattails to win South Carolina. There's nothing about him that strikes me as interesting or formidable or intriguing or capable of a high ceiling. You know, like I just don't view him as someone who like won this in any sense of the term. But again, this is me.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I disagree. I think you can frame it as like he fucking stomped through the country and got all the votes based off of his message. And his message is not necessarily something.
Who, Biden? What was his message?
His message is not necessarily one that I enjoy, but it's one that.
What is it though? I'm asking specifically, what is Joe Biden's message? I don't know, and I'm not trying to like bust your balls. I'm saying I don't know what Joe Biden's message is.
Yeah, so his message is something, and I know this is infuriating to many people, something more to the center of what Bernie was proposing. I don't need that in my life. I don't need that center in my life. But his message, that worked for him because.
But what was it?
It's like we are not going to enact all the things that, let's say, for example, Bernie wants to enact. We're gonna go through the system and maybe give you a little bit here with healthcare. Stick to the Obama plan of healthcare. We're going to honor what you already have and then work with you from there, which is like an annoying hedge, but politics, whatever. Even a student loan, all that stuff. He's like, I'm not ready to forgive that yet, but we can talk about it. This is a big problem.
See,
and he was just like
I think you're giving
with
his message too much credit. I don't even think it was that nuanced. I think his only message was,
remember that I don't care about Biden. So
right.
like, I'm not standing for him, but this.
But I'm saying
won.
you use like 7 sentences to describe like what his message was, and you say Bernie, it's like disparity of wealth, this and that, and I don't think Biden even has as coherent as you described, which wasn't even that coherent.
No,
which was sort of like an absence of negative. It was
or
negative space.
Let's say Biden's message. Politics is complicated, right? But let's say his message is like, let's not freak out. We know what to do. Like that's his message.
I guess
and
I would say
Bernie is like, we're freaking out. We're changing everything, which is scary for a lot of people.
I mean, it was only interpreted as that because of the DNC and the media.
Trump agrees.
I'm just saying Bernie's message was all stuff that was easily doable and should be part of any like high functioning society. And it was proven all a necessity over the last 3 weeks. But I think Biden's message has mostly been decency and a return to Obama normalcy. I think that's like his entire sales pitch. I don't think
huge,
it even.
though.
I don't even think it's as thoughtful as what you just laid out. Like a little bit of Bernie, but not all of it. I don't even think it was any of that. It was, we'll give you nothing, but we'll bring back decency, and you won't be scared because you know who Joe Biden is. I think that was more or less his entire pitch.
I mean, hey man, I care so little about Biden, but I really care about the way politics are going on Earth. So like, I'm hoping for the best, man. That's all. I hope Biden like blossoms, like this podcast has blossomed during this era. I hope, I'm rooting for these guys, man. Like, what can I do? Like, this is the guy. Like, I would have voted for Bernie, but like, I'm rooting for these guys. I just want them to help people, and like, my path isn't like getting angry about it, and I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying like there is anger about this, and there should be, because this is the most important thing maybe ever.
Well, my only response is anger. I don't even have deep sadness. I don't. That's not my response at all. My response
totally
is only white hot rage for Tom Perez and the DNC.
Yeah.
I hate them more than I hate the Republican Party.
That's fair.
I hate them. And, special shout out though to like the wave after wave of like smug careerists who, attacked Bernie wielding the cudgel of performative outrage and like, identity politics concern trolling. Like I really love them that like, like
those are a lot of
completely-
buzzwords, but those are really Yeah, I agree. A ton of
Like, I
buzzwords
love-
just then, but yeah.
But I really love them. Those are great. The sort of the people with no moral center or core who are only notable for like selective outrage and like being mad at the bros. Shout out to them. Huge victory for those guys.
And there's like a bunch of bubbling things on social media that we're kind of slightly realizing like doesn't have the impact quite yet of what we thought it was, because of I'm only saying that with the way people voted, because Bernie had the coalition of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I thought that was going to be a big deal. It will be moving forward, I think, but it hasn't really shown itself in the voting results yet, which is fine. I think it's going to take longer, but he had that advantage going in, I believe. But what you're saying, all those words, there's a bubbling feeling on these social networks of like it's, and you know, I don't even mean to disparage Bernie supporters, but like I think at this point on Wednesday in April 2020, Bernie Bros means something that you can identify clearer than you could a year ago, maybe 10 months ago.
I'm not discussing the phrase Bernie Bros with you.
Okay, Bernie supporters, like heartfelt Bernie supporters.
Because Bernie Bros.
Okay, let's not.
I'm saying you hit that hashtag and you see what comes up. It's like Joy Reid. It's not a word that gets used by anyone who is anything other than like a vapid centrist. And
okay,
like,
let's not talk about it.
that's it. Like I'm honestly, like I can't deal with that kind of bullshit. I can discuss Bernie, but I can't talk about like, quote, the Bernie Bros are online and they were mean. Like that's exactly the people that I'm talking about. The people who were concerned trolling about civility and are just completely vapid, and they have no moral core, no center. All they have is like sleazy centrism, and they're just overjoyed that the bros are like mad today. Like they can fuck off.
Okay, let's not mention Bernie Bros.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bernie supporters. No, I don't. We're talking this through, but I think there's like, I like the way, or I don't like the way. I pay attention to the way that like there's all these different reactions and communities forming on the internet in response to another community, and I think that happens in NBA Twitter quite a bit as we're like relitigating all these like old players and new players, and you're seeing the way certain groups of people think about Allen Iverson or Steve Nash, and the same way they like. I never thought I would think about Steve Nash this much ever, but I have been thinking about him all week because of that debate. And I think a lot of these identity politics and a lot of these, like this projecting of virtue, kind of fractures into individual statements. And those statements kind of grow to be oddly huge debates about like Steve Nash.
I just, for me, it's just the vilification of Bernie Sanders for wanting to make America a better place is just one of the like most astounding things I've witnessed, because he's the only candidate in our lifetime to reach this level who suggested these things, that
Well,
America
I like
could
Beto.
be better. What was that?
I like Beto. Beto's
Beto?
cool. Yeah, I call him Beto. I like Yang. A lot of these candidates were virtuous. They did not survive as long as Bernie. Shout out to Bernie, a
But that's
career
what I'm saying.
politician.
Bernie finished second in the Democratic primary in 2 election cycles, and he's the only candidate in my lifetime I can say envisioned a fair version of America that is entirely possible and within our grasp, and was alternately scorned for it, vilified for it, mocked for it, and ultimately, destroyed for suggesting that we could have a system that's a bit like Canada.
He's the Buffalo Bills of politics. And
Anyway,
they were very successful.
Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if I can vote for Joe Biden. I don't
It's
know.
okay. I mean, vote however. I don't believe, I said this before. I don't believe like if you're not voting for this person, you're voting for this person. I think this country is great because the most powerful thing you can do is vote. So vote however the fuck you want to vote, man.
Yeah, and again, I get how the Democrats and the centrists operate. They will, of course, say after they have secured the nomination and shit on people to the left of them relentlessly, fixed primaries, whatever. But they will then turn and say, "Are you serious? Do you want to have kids in cages? You want to get rid of abortion? What if we have more people? What if we have more Republicans on the Supreme Court for the next 20 years? And I'm like, I'm not here to be shamed right now. This opinion might change by November, but right now, nah, you don't get to do that. You don't get to selectively shame the left for wanting to make the world a better place, using our virtue and our hopes and dreams of a more progressive America against us in order to bolster your own power. I'm not into that right now.
I mean, I think, I'm not into it either, but people can talk about whatever. This is all whatever. People believe in stuff, and I just don't pay attention. That's what I kind of mean by maybe I have a more feeling of sadness than anger, because I know this stuff exists. I know there's someone out there who thinks I'm doing the wrong thing and is willing to tell me. I just don't pay attention to them.
I mean, to me, the biggest issue right now is the lack of voting in America. And that to me really is bothersome, that we just can't figure out a way, whether it's voting or online, to get more Americans involved in this process. And when I see the Republicans resistant and openly saying we can't allow more people to vote because it'll hurt our party, for all that outrage that I have and venom for the Republican Party and for the daily cartoonish cruelties that they inflict upon our country, I have a special reserve of anger.
Wow, you have a
little more. I want
quarter.
It more. I want anger.
Overtime.
More.
This is
a little left in the
then.
tank.
Yep.
Yeah, for the voter disenfranchisement. There's a little extra anger for that even at this time.
You just want it more.
That shit is just mind-boggling to me. And of course, we have this history of voter suppression in America. Poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clause, felonies, etc. So
it's
the
not
idea
a national holiday, which is ridiculous.
Ridiculous. The idea that we have ever been a actual democracy that's where everybody votes is obscene. But I still have this feeling that it's such an affront to even the flimsy idea of democracy in America when Republicans mail-in votes? No.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah, we just don't listen to them.
That's treason to me.
Yeah, it's offensive.
It's straight up traitorous. It's like spitting in the face of the Statue of Liberty or something.
Wow, Statue of Liberty stand. I love this. I love the Statue of
the
Liberty.
one thing that we pretend to have is everyone gets a vote, and they're nah, that sounds like a lot of people voting. No thanks.
Who knew? Did you watch that HBO documentary about voting hackers? It was amazing. They had a conference. Did you see it? I don't want to talk about it.
I can't remember if I read
2 weeks ago.
I did not see that. I read a really long article about this, and maybe last year. But anyway, go on.
Reading all of a sudden.
No, this was a while back. It was a while back.
Oh, you were
Not
reading
now.
A while back?
No, not now.
Okay. It's sort of I thought of Domino's Pizza, because it was actually more predictable than Domino's, because Domino's became a tech company, and this voting process just is so heavily dependent on technology that it's a tech issue and not it's of course it's extremely immoral, but I didn't know how tethered to technology it would be so quickly. And in this documentary, hackers were they had the machines that you can buy, the voting machines, the digital ones, and they were just gerrymandering them and swapping out cards. And some guy from his laptop was look at all those people looking at that machine. I'm going to hack it right now. And he just shut it down. They're oh, we did something wrong. It shut down. He's oh, I did that. And they were what? That's amazing. And it was a nerd conference. And it was terrifying. They're we can change the votes. Some guy who was anonymous was I gained access to the U.S. voting system in 2016. But I didn't want to go to jail for the rest of my life, so I had to go. And they were what do you mean? You could just change the numbers? He's yeah, I could have just typed in whatever I wanted. Terrifying.
That's so nuts, yeah.
It's nerds just being I'm good at this stuff. You don't know who I am, but I would not like to not go to jail.
Yes. With all that and the fact that we're already dealing with small proportions of the population who are voting.
Yeah.
It's just such a fictional or shallow version of democracy. It's really gross.
Yeah, and I think there's no straight line to make this better in our lifetime. But I always come back to the idea of like prioritizing like math people and science people and people who maybe don't have stereotypically high political lean, but are fascinated by wrinkles in the system. And like, for example, we can talk about the coronavirus in terms of a socioeconomic or political way forever. I think that's legitimate. I just want the scientists to like eat out of vending machines and drink bad coffee and like just like spend a year being as sciencey as possible. And why there isn't a mathematician or a statistician on this team is beyond me. And with the election, I just want, if we can find a corner of American politics that cares, being like, here's $500 million to just nerds to try to protect our electoral system moving forward.
Yeah, that
would
sounds
be
like
wonderful.
something the Republicans would love.
And no Democrat wants that either, because you look bad with your books, right? Like, why are we paying for this? My kid could do this. Everything's safe. And the money is the issue. And, you know, a lot of these, I like the Democratic field a lot this run. Ironically, Biden was not in my top 5 maybe, but I liked a lot of these people because they identified a lot of these issues, and I just hope these guys will have influence moving forward. You know, Bernie has influence because he's a senator, and that's great. But I just hope these guys will be involved in politics moving forward.
We'll see.
Yeah.
In non-Bernie news, in like media news, there's a new, is it an app? Is it a new platform, a new network? But Quibi has launched.
What's up with these startups with wacky letters like Z and Q?
Oh man, it feels very retro.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let's name it like a city in Oman or something. And you're like, Quibi?
Oh, it's a combination of words that's so stupid. I gotta Google this, so go on. This is terrible radio. But what is Quibi, Ben?
Well, my understanding of it is that it's a app platform, subscription-based media outlet that specializes in bite-sized content, like
Right.
8-minute episodes, 10-minute episodes.
And the word is based off of quick and bites. Quibi.
Yeah, don't like
sorry.
it.
I'm sorry. I had to. Don't kill the messenger, Ben.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not mad at you. I'm saying it's not. Quibi is whatever. They're all terrible. But I've never really thought that was how I wanted to digest media, like 10-minute sections. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, they've just launched it, and they have a lot of notables involved. And you've got people like J-Lo and Kevin Hart and Chrissy Teigen and Mark Wahlberg, and maybe he's doing a documentary on like the Dropkick Murphys or something like that, or maybe a heist, a heist in Beantown, and the Migos, and a bunch of other people. It seems very celebrity laden.
All stars. These are big time names.
Does this strike you as something that you will enjoy, that you will subscribe to, or that'll work?
In theory, maybe. It's run by Jeffrey Katzenberg, so that makes me kind of shudder immediately because I'm not a kid and I don't like The Little Mermaid, and you know he made his name in Disney, reviving that company, and that's cool and everything, but it doesn't necessarily translate to something I want to see. And as somebody who is consuming the Bon Appetit YouTubes at like an alarming rate, I'm talking for hours every night, and these are like 15 to 20 minute videos, a bit longer than what Quibi's model is. And these guys weren't stars before they started this, and now to me they're like apex stars. I love Brad Leone. Come on, man. Molly. Come on. But anyway, I don't think this is going to work because that personnel, to me, isn't obsessed with this. Like, J-Lo is a singer / dancer / celebrity / businesswoman. The Migos are rappers. Like, they don't create 10-minute chunks of content. You know what I mean?
It reminds me a little bit of when Vice became a TV network, and they would have like Tyler the Creator or Diplo had a show, And to your point, that's not who they are. They're not TV stars. There's a limit of effort and time that they're going to put into those kind of projects. And maybe in Quibi's sense, they're like, well, you're going to have 10-minute episodes. That's not that much. So your commitment is low. It's different from saying you're going to do 12 episodes and each one is half an hour or 22 minutes, whatever. Maybe the commitment's actually kind of similar. But can you survive off of like celebrities, like the high end of influencing, which is clearly what they're initially banking on, and being like, you know, Chrissy Teigen, you have 1.7 million followers. Maybe
I love her Twitter. I love her Twitter.
But we're going to need you to tweet this out. We're going to need Migos. We need your fans behind this. You're going to tweet this out. Kevin Hart, are you on deck? And like, it really seems that they're going with
BTS.
like the stars.
Yeah.
The stars have come out to shine on Quibi.
I mean, this is amazing. This is an interesting way to do it because I feel like they're looking at just raw data. Like, who are the people we care about on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? And they've accumulated this super team that is almost too big to fail. And another aspect of it is ironic in this time because they developed a technology that they're calling turnstile, which means you can reorient your phone from sideways to upright, and it would have no lag or delay in the picture. It would just like be static, like a steady cam. And I'm like, who cares? That wasn't the issue that wasn't the issue before.
This is a viewing
technology. Yeah.
I see.
And which is not to be underrated because Apple has like a patent on its fluidity of its operating system. So that's why when you pick up, if you're an Apple user and you pick up a Droid, it has a different movement to it. Apple's kind of fluid liquidity kind of thing, for lack of a better word, is a patent that they have. So I think this stuff, all the small stuff matters, but they called it turnstile because they expected people to use this on subways when they are in transition, like quickly in transitional moments of their lives, the in-between moments, whatever. And now we don't have those moments, and they're launching during this time that is not ideal for them with these people who are not really coming through for us during this time. Not like that Blue Marble, which is my hero.
I mean, launching a media platform in this moment is odd because if you have an arsenal of content, people are starving for stuff to look at. So you do have an audience of people who are on their phones all day. And if there's a time for them to embrace whatever the hell you're putting out on video, this seems like a reasonable opportunity to do that. I also just don't know if celebrity content generated prior to coronavirus is necessarily going to be that compelling right now. But, you know, this is a business model that feels, I can't tell if this feels futuristic or feels retrograde.
Dude, this is a boomer-ass tactic. This is what Bernie was just talking about. He's like, we cannot think from the top down. We have to think from the bottom up. And as someone who grew up in the 90s with indie rock and the last bits of punk maybe, like, yes, creating stars who are obsessed with this, like through TikTok, through YouTube, has proven to work. And there's always someone like Jay-Z who starts Tidal being like, too big to fail. Daft Punk is on stage. You love Daft Punk. We're going to create Daft Punk content for everybody. You love me. New Jay-Z stuff, new Jay-Z albums. And we're just like, cool, we're marginally interested in this, but not enough for us to be obsessed over it because it doesn't feel like you guys are obsessed over it.
So I guess ideally you're trying for a two-prong business plan, which is use the celebs, the notables, the bold-faced A-list to draw initial attraction to it, draw eyeballs, get subscriptions, get money flowing in, and then you try to cultivate your own talent.
Yes.
And once those celebs have run their course, or we realize that they're not that interesting to begin with, or they lose interest, then you're like, no, we have our own titles. We have our own original stars that you're interested in, or that we have, as you said, plucked up from TikTok or whatever.
And the danger with Quibi, and they've generated billions in like money. They've
Not revenue, like VC funding, right?
Yes, yeah, funding. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. And the danger is, I believe Katzenberg has a vision, a quality control vision of it, where he wants these things to be movie quality, and I think that will be his Achilles heel. I think what I want is just something extremely funny, extremely compelling, or extremely personable. And I think somebody who rescued Disney and put out all these huge movies like The Lion King has a certain point of view that may be not in touch right now.
It's like you can put a big name in, you can use great cameras, you can have excellent editors, it can be directed perfectly, but will it get more eyeballs than that dude with the overflowing hotel room jumping on top of a car, falling off and busting his ass?
I watched that like 50 times. Help. I'm going to watch it again after this perfect pod is done.
So I mean, like, how do you compete with that?
Yeah. Exactly.
He went and hid behind some flowers soaking wet. Like, you can't do that. You can't create that with Mark Wahlberg and the whole House of Pain. Even if you had the Soul Assassins. Even with Muggs doing the beats, you can't top that guy jumping off the second floor as a little girl screams, "That's our car."
Muggs cannot save that man who may be seriously hurt, but may be too shocked to even realize how hurt he is. He looked like he was like wincing as if he had like broken a rib or something. He went down. Yes.
No, you cannot beat that with Sendog.
Who was the tall guy with the big nose on Cypress Hill? What was his name?
Be Real?
That's Be Real. That's right. I'm sorry. It's been a long time since I thought about the Soul Assassins. But DJ Muggs was
except for yesterday.
yeah. Except for this podcast. Remember there was an era of albums of like producers and like guests on every tracks. I think Muggs had like one of the better ones, if I'm not mistaken. That is such an old business model. But
I don't remember that album being that good, but maybe that's what Quibi is. It's a DJ Muggs album.
That's where I'm going with this, being like Kid Capri with guests from like Da Brat. And I'm like, yes, I kind of like both of you. Is this work as a thing? I'm not sure.
Do you remember the group, the Hooligans?
Of course I remember the Hooligans.
Weren't they also Soul Assassins? Or was that the Knuckleheads? There was a couple white groups. I think it was the Hooligans. One of them, if I remember correctly, had like Alchemist and like James Caan's son.
James Caan's son.
Yeah. You know, who became an actor, Scott Caan.
Yes.
Caan?
Okay, right. Scott Caan, who was...
You can find videos of him rapping. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about Max Kellerman having kind of bars that you can still look at on YouTube. His rapping partner, his brother, tragically died. But, the Hooligans were Scott Caan and Alan Amon, later known as The Alchemist.
I knew it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they were Soul Assassin adjacent.
Wow. Wait, they went by the names of Mad Skills and Mudfoot? Not the Mad Skills.
No. That's the Mad Skills from Virginia, who later became known for his terrible yearly recaps. That's his claim to fame. Unlistenable yearly breakdowns.
Yo, Quibi is so backpack rap because backpack rappers want to throw the letters Z and Q everywhere. Like Mad Skills is with a Z. The Hooligans is with a Z. Quibi, come on. We see you, Quibi. You're just fat beats aficionados.
Yeah, Quibi's some real boom bap shit.
Quibi's at the D-Nice party. Quibi's logged in. What up, D-Nice?
Jeffrey Katzenberg is here.
Rewind.
Drop that 8-minute quick bite.
Word to your mom. Left side, let me see your hands.
Oh, Quibi, throw your hands up.
Yeah. I mean, everyone deserves a voice, even Jeffrey Katzenberg. So do your thing, cats doggy.
Finally.
Finally, he gets his moment.
Cats and dogs.
LOL cats.
He always makes it rain. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Did I tell you the wait?
Sorry.
I just want to
go on. Keep going.
the moment I realized maybe rap wasn't for me, or New York rap wasn't for me anymore, was KRS-One. Seeing him perform, maybe in the late '90s, where he was doing everything like left side, let me see your hands, you're not loud enough, right side, all right, let's go through all the elements of hip hop, and I was like, this is no longer for me. You weren't chanting street entrepreneurship. No, I was like, are you a businessman or a businessman?
Knowledge of self.
Yeah, I was like, awesome. Speaking about boom bap, I've loved KRS-One for so long, and this is officially done. I'm done. Let's see what Manny Fresh is up to down there. I was just done with New York stuff.
Well, the problem with New York rap is similar to what we've seen in basketball. It became judgy. It was annoyed at different styles of music that were from
shaming
other regions, and it also shamed materialism, which was like, I don't know, drawing fouls or something. But it really splintered kind of around the Puffy era. And
yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit.
And the shiny suits and those things, and then the other half you had groups like the Fugees or De La Soul, who a lot of their stuff was kind of talking about how they weren't talking about materialism or sex or mafia shit or whatever.
Yeah.
And that schism really hurt East Coast music because it made a lot of stuff kind of unlistenable.
Yeah.
And you listen to like a really good record like OC's Time's Up, which we all liked at the time.
Amazing.
And you hear it now, you're like, you're just rapping about rappers.
Doesn't work in the club.
It's boring.
Yeah. Time's Up does not work.
I want to hear about Doc Strange in the Range like Quo.
Like Quo. Yeah, maybe I take that back. I wasn't done with New York rap at all because you said Bad Boys for Life, and I was like, Bad Boys for Life. I love that era of like Hype Williams oversaturation of this thing that kind of KRS-One, I think, describes a different experience of this thing. And maybe I was done with that. I was like, no more shaming. Can we all just like hear what we want to, just hear what everyone wants to do?
I mean, I still liked a lot of East Coast rap no matter what, but it was a problem that a huge segment of New York based rap was fixated on other rappers and rapped about mics and stages and like being real and lyrics and battles. It was just exceptionally boring. Yeah. And there was still really good rap though. I mean, like Capone and Noriega and Tragedy and Biggie, there was really good stuff in the late 90s. City of Dreams. Jay-Z became the best rapper on the planet. There was plenty of stuff to listen to.
Yeah.
But there was so much stuff that became unpalatable from artists that we had liked.
Yeah.
They just kind of took themselves out of the game by whining about rap.
And they had long careers and like, it times out. And the only reason, I mean, it feels like we talk about this era of rap so much, but we're doing a basketball podcast. And there's no coincidence here.
That's because MCs act like they don't know. Doom, 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 ding.
Listen, if you don't start Derrick Rose, then I can't talk to you. You know nothing.
The real.
Yeah. It's like the way NBA Twitter discusses players just reminds me so much of arguing about rap music when we were buying doubles of Mike Zoot singles.
Yeah, because it's adding morality and ethics to entertainment.
For sure.
And
I'm here for this debate. It's kind of fun too,
The debate is fun, but that's why we make fun of it.
Yeah,
because they're guys rapping over beats, man.
Yeah.
And we're talking about what's right or wrong.
It's like, are you sure you don't like Mace? Are you sure? Have you heard Harlem's World? Like, really? Listen to it 5 more times and tell me you really hate Mace. Because it's really difficult to hate that record.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think the parallel with basketball is accurate. People saying, I don't like this modern game. I liked it better when it was a different way. Yeah. And it's the exact same language, the exact same posturing and intentional sort of disrespect for the people who are on the bleeding edge of pushing rap forward or basketball forward. Oh, I don't like how they do that. Remember back in my day when you could hand check? You know, with real producers and real MCs.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. And it kind of like I've been looking at NBA Twitter for a beacon of like joy, some joy in these already joyful days. Come on.
That's
We're trying to stay positive. But I'm looking for it in NBA Twitter. And it's kind of let me down a little bit because it's a lot of like cops. It's like, if you don't think this player is good, then I can't even listen to you. Blocked, you know? And I'm like, oh, we're not having fun anymore. It's like we're just yelling at each other.
I don't know that NBA Twitter is a wartime consigliere. It may be a cultural subset that is best equipped for dealing with basketball results in real time. We're talking about games, highlights, dunks, trades,
Wins,
signings.
losses, new wins, new losses.
But then even in the offseason,
Oh, okay, my bad.
draft picks, trades, signings, you know, drama. And the NBA as a product has become very good at providing a year-round diet of this league. And right now we have none of it. That schedule that we have become so accustomed to of providing us with these spikes, but also, you know, very continuous moments. We got nothing. What can we do? How can basketball Twitter be saved?
I know. It's like what we were.
Doesn't sound like you have an answer.
No, of course I don't. I have no answers. But it sounds like we were workshopping this with the D Nice conversation and the Manny Fresh, and I think the people who are good at this, when there's nothing and people who can create content, like some guy jumping on a wet car, is a talent. And you're right. NBA Twitter is a reactionary device. And if we have nothing to react to, it takes someone to create. And a lot of people try, like bench, start, sit. Like, okay.
I know. It's like NBA Twitter remains undefeated. Actually, no, we're 0-1 now.
Yes. And
They are completely defeated. Absolutely. They got humiliated, dunked upon by reality.
Yeah. And comparing old players to new players and like creating fictional lineups and who would win this team. I'm like, this ain't that fun. We can talk about it. And
Okay. Chris Middleton, Michael Redd. Like, just stop, dude. Just stop.
Alonzo Mourning in his prime. I'm like, but it. And
What if Martell Webster?
right. I mean, when I think of NBA Twitter during this era, I hope this will not be the lasting one, but I'm happy with Matisse Thybulle doing his basketball video, which was like awesome, right?
That was very cute. That was adorable.
Like more of that stuff a little bit. But this is the TikTok generation, and maybe I should be going to TikTok for this.
I think that maybe players themselves generating content is a way to push things forward, to give us something to talk about. But look, I have advocated several times, open up the hot stove league. Let transactions rain upon us. Trades, do the draft, do free agency, and then even come back with new teams to do the playoffs. Whatever.
How much
give
chaos?
Give us something.
How much chaos is too much chaos? Given there's a somber tone in the room.
Oh.
Is there no cap? The limit does not exist with chaos, right?
I mean, yeah, we could do the responsible thing and do nothing.
We could be
Sure.
responsible.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, do we need to be entertained now? Yes, right? And is NBA Twitter its own entertainment entity? Yes, right?
It is, but it's a dreary one. Every day there just becomes a new meme that's just more tiresome. Okay. 5 different tables, each with members of the Phoenix Suns from 2010, and you can choose to sit with Raja Bell.
Those are the most exhausting. It's like, table 2 wins, duh. If you don't pick table 2, you're dead to me. I'm like, what are we? This is, yes. Okay, what? A table again? Oh, man.
if you don't choose to pick a table with Jalila Okafor, kill yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Just take a gun, put it in your mouth, pull the trigger. If you don't choose table 2.
Yeah, it's like the worst part of like pizza reviews or taco reviews. It's like, this is the best taco in New York, and if you don't think so, kill yourself. I'm like, whoa, that really got intense, man. It is very nice, I agree.
You don't want to sit at the table with Loy Vaught, make a noose, hang it on your neck, stand on a chair, kick it out from under yourself.
Put it into a needle, eject it into your eyes, don't drink water, and die of dehydration.
All right, look. If you don't pick a table with Post Malone, I want you to take a thing of Drano, drink the whole thing down, lie in bed until it eats into your internal organs.
If you don't like Jay-Z, you can jump on a wet car, slip and fall, crack a rib, destroy the windshield, and get yelled at by a 5-year-old.
Then hide behind a bunch of chrysanthemums.
Right. If you don't like Scott Storch, you are the blue marble. Dead.
Yeah, so this is where I think really basketball Twitter needs to go.
Like, I have no answers. Do not put me in the chart. Do not make me the basketball Twitter czar. I do not qualify.
Do you want to sit with Black Rob and Andrew Kuo at table 3?
Imagine Questlove's brain and Black Rob's body.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Those table things are great.
Oh.
So one thing that we've been really dying to talk about, and we talked about some stuff that was kind of honestly meaningless: coronavirus, the presidential campaign, basketball Twitter. But one thing that we need to address,
It's been weighing on us a little bit, and we need to finally get to it.
like we owe it to the listeners, and honestly, I'm embarrassed.
And to be honest, we owe it to ourselves, man. We need to get to know ourselves better.
And when you get to know yourself more and know how little you like yourself, you come up with topics like this. The 2015 Atlanta Hawks.
What?
Somehow, we haven't broached that super team. A 60-win juggernaut has not been a subject of discussion on Cookies Hoops Pods since most likely 2015.
Crying Al Horford meme, man. He gets dogged by the BMM, Leprechaun League, the Corned Beef crew, and Philly, who are BMM adjacent, the ones who are. And we forget how great he was on teams like the 2015 Hawks. He was a beast.
We're talking about a team that started not only DeMarre Carroll, but 4 All-Stars aside DeMarre Carroll, en route to a 6th ranked offense and a 6th ranked defense under Coach Bud.
60 wins, 6 rank.
Satan shit, man.
That's
The mark of the beast on Coach Bud. Beelzebub.
devilish winning percentages.
One thing that's interesting about that team, to be honest here, because we actually are going to talk about them.
Let's go. Yes, I'm with you.
We weren't just going full hooligan mode.
Hooligans.
Is that team was stylistically and philosophically the forerunner to the Bucks team that won or was on pace to win almost 70 games this season. They didn't have Giannis, and they used sort of Millsap or Hal Orford in that role. But the outline is there. And when you look at the way they defend, they were very early to the table in emphasizing shutting down opponents' three-pointers. And they drove everything towards the paint. And their defense was great at preventing threes.
Well, the Bucks are selective in their arc defense, right?
Well, the Bucks give up a ton of threes. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting to see how they've changed these kind of ideas, because it was Coach Bud, and I think he evolved as the game evolved. And you can see where the Bucks' current strategy came from. In the same way they use like Pero Antich as a stretch 5 is now what they use with Brook Lopez, who is like a far better stretch 5. So like the Bucks are a better team than the Hawks were. But the Hawks similarly were kind of a team that had a lot of talent, but really employed a sort of almost ingenious strategy of unselfishness, ball movement, and a stylistic defense that we sort of see parallels to, even though applied differently with the Bucks today.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. Obviously, but the volume of 3-point shooting kind of mirrors really eerily. Like Kyle Korver, 6 3-point shots a game. Chris Middleton, 5.8. DeMarre Carroll, 4.3, 3 and D, right? Wesley Matthews, 4.5. And Kyle Korver's on these Bucks too, which is kind of ironic. And he's taking more threes than he did in 2015. No, he's not. My bad. Only this year, reading off stats, 4.1. So, you're right there. The 2015 Hawks were kind of a precursor or kind of a predictive team to what we're seeing now. And I think we don't talk about them enough because they burn bright, but they burned out.
Yeah, when I'm talking about the defense, it's more about how Coach Bud has altered his team defense along with theory in how to defend threes has changed simultaneously. And I think that's very cool because we know that in 2015, the perception of defending against three-pointers was very much don't let them take those shots. And it still is meaningful today. You don't want teams taking a bunch of threes. And, Coach Brett Brown of the Sixers, he comes from the same Popovich background as Coach Bud. And the Sixers are very good at denying three-point attempts. But the Bucks have shifted a bit, and you alluded to it, which was that they really sell out on defending the paint and let guys who aren't great shooters shoot as much as they want from the perimeter. And that's kind of the way we've come to understand how you should defend against three-pointers as time has gone on. That it's not about only limiting three-pointers, but you can let guys who are not good three-point shooters take as much as they want.
Goad them into it, right? At a poker table, get somebody who doesn't have a good hand to spend their money. And so what you're saying is they're not an honest. They're devilish. They're a dishonest defense.
They're very dishonest. And they try to goad you into taking mid-range jumpers. They will run you off the line. But when the Sixers whacked them, they were just hitting a ton of threes. And even in subsequent games, Philly shot okay from three, and that's where they scored best. But they got lured into trying to create off the dribble, getting sucked into that Milwaukee defense, and then end up taking 15-footers. And you can sort of see the evolution of Coach Bud's defense from Atlanta to Milwaukee.
And maybe someone who enjoys mad skills with a Z is thinking now that, well, how come they didn't win a championship then? They got swept by LeBron and they went cold. So maybe this was the beginning of something that will never work. And I think that's a misinterpretation of not hitting your shots because they were good enough to win, but they played LeBron James and missed all their shots.
Yeah, and because they were not a team that was great for a long period of time, they were almost instantly forgotten. And we looked at them after getting swept by LeBron as being jokers.
Yeah.
They were a regular
Fraudulent.
season team. They were a complete fraud.
One-hit wonders.
And
like Keith Murray.
We're looking at results-based here because they shot 23% on 111 three-pointers in that series. And whether that's partially a testament to the
Cavs
Cleveland,
defense.
the Cavs defense. Also, just shooting 23%, you can't win games doing that if your offense is based on making and taking a lot of threes.
Yeah.
You're cooked.
Yeah. And shooting teams like the Houston Rockets in recent memory went through that and didn't win. And people like Charles Barkley on TNT look to these examples as this cannot work, but we forget when it does work, with the Golden State Warriors,
And, looking at the Bucks luring Joel Embiid into taking 10 threes, which is
Smart.
obviously not an amount that he typically
smart.
takes. I think that was his second highest total of the year, but he made 3 of them. So that's okay.
Yes.
It's not great.
Yes.
But he shot 6 of 26 overall against them, and then he shot 5 of 17 against them.
Right.
So the Bucks are doing something really interesting defensively that is based on a newer understanding of how to defend threes. and it's not just as simple as,
guarding them.
don't let them take threes. It's more complex.
Yeah, it's almost like an evolution of what we were talking about yesterday with the Michael Lewis piece about Shane Battier and make the shooter uncomfortable to his weak side, keep a hand in his face. Now it's almost like it's a bigger view of a team, right? Pick the players that you want, tell them where they can shoot, and then goad them into it like a trap.
Yeah, that's what's very interesting to me is that the Bucks give up the most threes a game, where Coach Bud's teams, the Hawks, gave up the fewest, and it's clearly intentional.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And other teams do that, but Bucks have really committed to it, and it's disappointing that we can't see this in its truest form. But I expect them to continue with this in the playoffs if it happens, right?
Of course, and I think part of it is that they know teams aren't comfortable taking 63 pointers.
Yeah, totally.
They give up an average of
it's such a mind game.
of
Yes.
38 3-pointers a game. Yeah. Teams aren't comfortable shooting that many.
And to be clear, the Bucks do not want good shooters to take threes. Like if you're Kyle Korver, whatever white guy you have running around that shoots like over 43% from three, it has the rock the ball. The Bucks are very concerned about these players and they guard them, but they're trying to convince other teams that they have an advantage where they actually have a weakness, which is like open shots by marginally good 3-point shooters like Joel Embiid.
What's incredible about this Bucks team is that they surrender 38.6 threes a game at a percentage of 35.6, and they take 38.6 points a game at a percentage of 35.6. Utterly amazing.
Yeah.
They give up and hit exactly the same amount.
Ooh, that's Tobias Harris-esque.
Both making 13.7 and giving up 13.7 made threes a game. That is fascinating.
That's weird. Math.
It is yin yang right there.
Yin yang gang.
Well, I'm glad we got to the bottom of that 2015 Hawks team.
Man, this cannot be a perfect pod without our vacation.
I love cookies.
It was pretty close.
I love cookies.
It was close.
I love cookies. I love cookies.